Bi. Noon sa namin mong noong, uy, nagmuro-muro naman sa lagi na.
Dahil kayo parang tutsyo ka nakiklaan pusukan.
Pandemya, bayalan sa kaya maglaag-laag, tanong?
Wala tutsyo kayo pakin ako.
Namang good. Ano lang, ato atag Casa Gorordo Museum na.
Di ba sarado pa sila?
Ambli na, uy. Virtually. Ay, no pang load, Bi. Huwag mo kalimut good nga nisaad ko ni maglaag last year, but kanilang sa for now, ha? Pinaagi sa Casa Gorordo Museum virtual tour, makasuway tag guided tours road sa balay ug napagay mga pagdrama sa maayong pamatasan sa una sa mga Cebuanon.
Hala kalay siya good anak, Bi. Basin mahal sa kayo na, Bi, ha? Abli na ba yung tagit sa?
Hello, Bi. Afford ra kay ni Bi. Uy, only the best for you.
Hala, wala di sila admission fee. Hala, ato kong nasuwayan, Bi.
So, hey, good! Pwede na mo bisita sa Casa Gorordo gamit imong mga smartphone, iPhone, Android phone, aside sa laptop or desktop.
Hala, ingon na nagigit sila ka-accessible? Hala, kasayo na di mo suri sa Casa Gorordo Museum, uy.
Snake, may mata na, uy! Kanya, kumusta man yung experience sa Casa Gorordo Museum virtual tour?
Nindot kay akong feeling, Roy, kay mura dyan kong naa sa sulod sa museum. Og daghan sa kong nakatunan, Roy, bahin sa balay, Roy, kultura, og kabilin sa atong mga Cebuanong katigulangan. O basta nindot kaayo, og ako po nang i-share ang link sa virtual tour nila Lester, Japet, James, og Jasper, ug sa akong mga mangod, og family, og para kinista na.
So, ano mo paglangan?
O i-check na ninyo ang website sa casagorordomuseum.org. Aron ma-experience ninyo ang among na-experience.
to Casa Gorordo Museum.
Cacao in the 21st century. Before, in Lantoy Cave, on the highest mountain in Argao, lived Maria Cacao.
Casa Gorordo Museum is a centerpiece project of the Culture and Heritage Focus Area of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated. The museum's mission is to promote awareness and appreciation of local culture and enable the Cebuano to tell his story. It is in line with Rafi's vision of touching people, shaping the future.
Most loving Father, you have brought us to the beginning of a new day.
As our eyes open to the morning light, our mouths praise your beauty and goodness in the splendor and design of your creation.
We accept the renewed gift of life and grace with gratitude.
We offer you our every thought, word, and act today, and pray that it be in accordance with your will and in furtherance of your glory.
Make us instruments of your presence to others.
Use our minds to understand the big picture, our hearts full of passion and purpose, and our hands to build partnerships.
Let us be advocate persons to become architects of change and fulfill our promise of elevating lives of communities and people we serve.
When evening comes, gather us again, safe under the shelter of your wings, to rest confirmed in your love.
And with the assurance that with your help, we have taken one more step towards a better world. Amen.
Good afternoon and maayong hapon sa tanan. We are back for this afternoon for another episode of the CGMtalk online series. For those of you who'd like to watch our previous episodes, they are still available in our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And as you are watching, you can ask questions by posting a comment on Facebook and YouTube, and we will pick some of them up for our Q&A portion later. Ako di ay si Rave, and I will be your host for today. I am the Museum Officer of Casa Gorordo Museum. The CGM Talk online series is one of the many programs of the Culture and Heritage Unit of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated that promotes Filipino culture and heritage. In celebration of the last Friday of September as the National Maritime Day, we will be talking about the archaeology of the Manila Galleons in the Philippines. For this afternoon, we have invited the officer in charge and senior museum researcher at the Maritime and Underwater Cultural Heritage Division of the National Museum of the Philippines. He finished his master's degree in archaeology at the University of the Philippines Archaeological Studies Program and is currently finishing his doctorate at the Center of Maritime Archaeology in the University of Oxford. He is the current president of the Kapisanan ng mga Archaeologists sa Pilipinas Incorporated. Please welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Bobby Orillaneda.
Mayang hapon sa inyong tanan. Thank you very much,
sir.
Ray, and
Hapon.
Casa Gorordo Museum for inviting me to speak during this National Maritime Day. Let me share my presentation.
Okay.
Is this okay,
So,
Ray?
yes, sir. I'll just add the presentation to the screen there. I will not hold you for long. Go ahead, Sir Bobby.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. So my presentation today is about the archaeology of the Manila Galleons in the Philippines. This is basically the survey, excavation, and research of select Manila Galleon shipwrecks that are found within the territorial waters of the present-day Philippines. And this is conducted primarily by the National Museum of the Philippines along with many private collaborators over the years. So as you know, the Manila Galleon trade was considered as the earliest example of global trade as it linked Europe, the Americas, and Asia. And also, it is significant to note that Cebu plays an important role in this, as the early Manila Galleons were based in the area. But before I discuss the Manila Galleons and the archaeology of it, let me just say a few words about the archaeology of Cebu City, because I assume that many of the audience today are Cebuanos or are familiar with Cebu City. So I would like to give a summary and also two examples of archaeological projects that I was involved with. So first is a summary of the archaeology of Cebu City. This list is not by means exhaustive. This is just sort of a highlights. So the earliest investigation in Cebu City was done by Major Eugene Dimitriewicz in the vicinity of present-day Cebu, and the project retrieved Chinese porcelains dated to the Song Dynasty period in China, which is the 12th to 13th century CE. And in 1967, Carl Hotterer of the University of Michigan and also Rosa Tinasas of the University of San Carlos did salvage archaeology, meaning archaeology that is done in a hurry because it's affected by developments. So this was done at the intersection of Lapu-Lapu and Magallanes streets. They found burials with grave goods. In 1973, Marcelino Maceda did excavations in the inner courtyard of Fort San Pedro. He and his team recovered 18 burials with grave goods, such as Asian high-fired glazed ceramics, Asian meaning mostly from China, Thailand, Vietnam, and some Myanmar, and also local earthenware pottery, bronze lime container, as well as glass and carnelian beads. And the site was dated to the mid 14th century CE, or the Common Era, so which is the common term now of the Anno Domini and AD. So in 1985 and 1986, Masao Nishimura did a research based on his doctoral dissertation to determine long-distance trade and the development of complex society in central Philippines. The research area covered almost 100 hectares, including portions of the now Plaza Independencia. So all in all, the research yielded various artifact assemblages such as pottery and ceramics, slag, this is iron and manufactured iron, glass, stone, wood, bone, and semi-precious stone, as well as faunal remains in the form of animals and shells, and 2 human burials with grave goods. And more recently, John Peterson in 2018 and 2020 carried out archaeological investigations in the Jesuit House, Parian District, which was established in 1730, and also the present-day Casa Gorordo Annex. Him and his team discovered wooden posts, Asian ceramics such as porcelain and stoneware from China, local pottery, faunal remains including pigs, chicken, water buffalo, and tamaro horn. So generally, the collected data contributes to the landscape interpretations of the natural as well as cultural landscapes of the downtown Cebu coastal plain. And now I will go to the Plaza Independencia project, which I was involved with. So I think most of you know the Plaza Independencia. So if this is Cebu City here, so it's near the coast. So the primary objective of the project is to conduct an archaeological impact assessment, or AIA, to determine the archaeological significance of the area prior to the commencement of earth-moving activities and preparation for the underground tunnel construction, which is now operational actually. So rescue archaeology was first done in 2000, which I was part of when I was still a graduate student on the Archaeological Studies program at UP Diliman. And again, another rescue archaeology was done in 2006, and monitoring was done in 2008. So on the right side of your screen, you see the map of the Plaza Independencia, and the lower right, the excavation areas that was done in 2000, 2006, and 2008. So the 2000 rescue activities included you first, before you do any excavations, you have to map the site. And the map, as you saw in the previous screen on the right side, this is the map, the result of the mapping activities using this. And then we commence the excavation. We do 4x4 excavation squares and slowly unearth the soil using trowels, and sometimes if we have delicate artifacts, we use brushes. And one example of one square showing pavement stones on the upper layer. So this was sort of a part of a structure prior to the present day layer. And all of the artifacts that were recovered are first cleaned, and then it is sorted out. So you sort out the artifacts according to the materials like ceramics, bones, metal, glass. So you sort it out and you separate it. And then lastly, you accession it, meaning you have to put each artifact with unique identifying numbers so that each artifact can be located and easily accessible and is unique. There's no overlapping of artifact numbers. This is good for research purposes. So in 2006, another rescue archaeology was done. And as you can see from the photos, they are going deep now. On the upper left side of your screen, and they are studying the layers of the soil. And they are also doing auger, coring, basically just putting an auger to determine the layers beneath the present layer. And you can see most of the photos here are of burials. So there are a lot of burials with many grave goods. So this one has ceramic grave goods, and also almost all of this have at one point many grave goods. So in 2008 was the actual commencement of the excavation of the site. So the National Museum did monitor the excavation process and also to watch out for any artifacts that were unearthed during the earth moving activities. So all in all, there were thousands and thousands of archaeological objects that were recovered, and also the burials are very remarkable. As you can see here on the upper left side of your screen is funerary death masks, made up of gold, and some of them are on the center upper part are Asian ceramics, and on the right upper part are gold earrings as well as brass bracelets and some other ceramics. So these are some of the Asian ceramics that were recovered from the site. Mostly Chinese ceramics. This one is a ewer, what we call a ewer, a blue and white ewer dated to the 15th century. And this one is a monochrome Chinese vase. And this is a covered jar from Thailand that's recovered in the Sichajanalai kiln. And this is also a celadon from China, which is manufactured in the Longquan kilns in Zhejiang province. And on the lower left side of your screen is a covered box with brown glaze that's recovered from, that's manufactured in Thailand also. And finally, a blue and white box that's made in Vietnam. And there were also pottery, earthenware pottery, which could be local, but there are also some examples, similar examples that were found in Thailand. And there are also examples of carnelian beads, as well as bones that were modified. So this is one of the more, shall we say, exciting recoveries, which I told you before. The burial with a death mask, as you can see here, covers the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And also there are earrings and some ornaments. All in all, the archaeological assemblage at the earliest layer is dated, most of the burials are dated to the 15th and 16th century. But as you go up to the newer layer, there are European wares from the UK, and these are termed European wares that were discovered in 19th centuries, so dated to the 19th centuries. So next, we go to another project that I was also involved in, the Marigondon Underwater Cave Project. So the Marigondon Cave in Mactan Island is one of the several caves that formed during periods of emergence in the Central Visayas. Global and regional sea level studies indicate that Marigondon Cave would have been above sea level during the last two full glacial periods, which is estimated to be 22,000 YBP or years before the present and 38,000 years before the present. These two periods are congruent with the period of occupation of Tabon Cave. I think most of you know that there are a lot of archaeological materials, including the Tabon woman or person in Tabon Cave in Palawan Island, Philippines. And this also suggests that Marigondon Cave may have been occupied during one or both of these periods. So Dr. John Peterson, then of the University of Guam, collaborated with the National Museum of the Philippines and carried out excavations in Marigondon Cave to characterize the geological history of the cave and its implications for discovery of human settlement terrain in the cave. So for reference, this is Cebu, this is Mactan, and this is Marigondon Cave. So the cave may have started to submerge about 10,000 years before the present and was completely submerged about 8,000 years before the present. So presently, the top of the cave, as you can see on the upper left side of your screen here, starts at 30 meters until 40 meters, which is here. So the cave extends over 33 meters as you go inside on the left side. So it's 33 meters inside, and then there's another smaller chamber which is 17 meters. So you can see this is the view from inside of the cave, and this is the view when you are going inside the main chamber. So in May 2011, silt removal and excavations were conducted by the technical divers, which you can see here, the team, led by Dr. John Peterson. This is John, to test for presence of archaeological deposits during a 2-week archaeological investigations. So me and Michelle Pinsay here was in charge of mapping the cave. And I tell you, it was the most frightening activity that we've done so far, because it's scary when you do something in underwater caves, and there have been a lot of casualties, actually diver casualties that died in the cave. So I remember seeing a lot of lapidas or grave markers as you go down near the mouth of the cave, and you can only imagine you're terrified to see those grave markers at the mouth of the cave. But eventually, we all did enjoy our activities. So this is the map of the cave. And here we did 2 excavation squares. The one in red here, which is near the mouth of the cave. And this is the photo. And another one, which is inside the cave, which is really pitch black, a smaller one, a 1-by-1 excavation, which you can see here. And what you see on the lower left side of the screen is us excavating. So John did a poster, and his team did a poster of the project, which was presented to a conference. So as a result, a composite rock specimen discovered from the rear of the cave has initially been found to have formed about 120,000 years before the present. This is consistent with global climate data and adding a new element to the tectonic climatic chronology of Cebu carbonate terraces. So floor deposits in the mouth of the cave were unfortunately found to have been disturbed by typhoon surge, as well as possibly by looters attempting to recover treasure in the mouth of the cave, because this is quite a famous dive site. So here are the results. So marine sediments, anodontia shells, and sclerosponges were recovered at different levels and radiocarbon dated. So let us now go to the historical background of the main topic, which is the Manila Galleon trade. On your right side, you can see is a map of trading routes during the 15th century, just immediately before the arrival of the Europeans. So you can see there are 2 main routes from China. The eastern side, which passes through the Philippines and Palawan, and also in Mindanao. And the western side, basically China, and then Vietnam, and then goes to Thailand and Indonesia. And here is a very complicated maritime trade network. So Southeast Asia in the 16th century CE is marked by the arrival of seaborne expeditions from Portugal and Spain. This can be attributed to territorial and economic expansionist ambitions of both countries, as they wanted to acquire Southeast Asian spices and other natural and manufactured produce that were in growing demand in Europe. So the missions also had very strong religious component, as both countries aimed at bringing Christianity to the indigenous Southeast Asian populations. So you can see here the first Magellan and Elcano circumnavigation. It started here in San Lucar de Barrameda in September 20, 1519. And the expedition fleet was composed of 5 ships, the Trinidad, San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, Santiago, and boarded by 270 men. From there, they went south and passed to Canary Islands, and then went to South America in Santa Lucia Bay in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro Bay, and then passed to Rio de Solis. And here in Puerto San Julian, where the Santiago was shipwrecked, and San Antonio deserted and went back to Spain. So after that, Magellan discovered the Straits of Magellan in here, Panama, and first saw Pacific Ocean in November 28, 1520. And then the expedition proceeded across Pacific Ocean, passing Sharks Island, Puka Puka, San Pablo Island, and here in Ladrones, as you can see on the right side of your screen, and then landed in first in Suluan Island in Eastern Samar, and then Homonhon, and then to Limasawa and Cebu, where, as you all know, Magellan died at the hands of Lapu-Lapu, or during the battle. And then the Concepcion was burned near Bohol Sea. So after that, only the one vessel remained, the Trinidad, who proceeded to Palawan and Brunei, as well as in Tidore, Ambon Island, and crossed the Indian Ocean towards Cape of Good Hope and went back to Sanlúcar de Marameda on September 6, 1522, with only 18 survivors. So Spain's arrival in the Philippines passed through the eastern route. So Magellan's voyage was spurred by his desire to reach Asia during the westward route, while following Spain's main objective of extending its empire towards the source of the much coveted spices in the east. So after Spain had celebrated Elcano's return, King Charles I decided that Spain should conquer the Philippines. There were 5 subsequent expeditions that were sent to the islands, including those led by Garcia Joffre Loaiza in 1525, Sebastian Cabot in 1526, Alvaro de Saavedra in 1527, Rudy Lopez de Villalobos in 1542, and Miguel Lopez de Legazpi in 1564. So the most notable of this is the last one, which is the Legazpi expedition. This is the expedition that established the first Spanish settlement on the site of modern Cebu City. So part of the expedition was the priest Andres de Ordaneta, who was part of the previous Loaiza mission in 1525. So in 1570, Legazpi sent an expedition to Luzon, and in the following year established the city of Manila, which became the capital of the new Spanish colony and Spain's major trading port in East Asia. So it is noteworthy that until 1565, no fleet had succeeded in sailing east from Asia. Here is Asia here, back across the Pacific to the Americas. It was Ordaneta, this guy here, a survivor of earlier expeditions, who first worked out the right winds and currents across the uncharted waters of the Pacific Ocean and discovered the Torna Viaje, or the return trip. So this Torna Viaje became the blueprint of the subsequent Manila-Acapulco Galleon Maritime Trade Network. So considered as the earliest manifestation of world economy, as it linked the Spanish Empire's eastern, which is Manila, here, and the western Acapulco terminus. So basically the return trip from Manila or Cebu goes east of the Catanduanes and farther north here, and then towards east of Japan, where the galleons mount the Kuroshio current in here, which would take them on an easterly track between 37 and 41 degrees north latitude, and pushing them westwards towards the coast of West California and ultimately to Acapulco. So the first galleon was named San Pedro, left Cebu on the 1st of June 1565 and arrived in Acapulco, Mexico on 8th of October 1565. So a few more Cebu-based galleons, including San Juan in 1567 and San Pedro in 1568 followed, but proved unprofitable due to natural and anthropogenic mishaps, as well as the absence of the desired spices and the scarcity of other natural resources. So, as you can see here, the map of the Manila Galleon Trade Network between Manila on the left side and Acapulco on the right side. So the Manila-Acapulco Galleon trade was a consequence of the Spanish occupation of the Philippines and was born out of the desire to transport people and merchandise between trade entrepot in Asia, which is in Manila, and the Americas, which is in Acapulco, Mexico, and crossing the Pacific Ocean. The vessels also served to transmit official documents needed to run and maintain the political and economic state of the western terminus of the Spanish Empire. Further, it also carried agents of religion through missionaries whose aim was the proselytization or conversion of native populations into Christianity. So what were the cargo of the Manila Galleons? This is an example of a cross-section of the Manila Galleon. For Acapulco-bound galleons, the cargo are usually gold, silk, ivory, sandalwood, copper, porcelain, musk, camphor, spices, and other natural and cultural exotics from China, Japan, Southeast Asia, India, and even Central Asia. So there's a wide range of archaeological or merchandise that were brought into Manila and to be transported into the Americas. For the Manila-bound galleons, the main cargo are silver in the form of coins and bullions, which is needed sort of a subsidy by the Spanish government in Americas subsidized Manila, as well as gems, lace, drugs, and other items from Mexico and Spain. So here are some relevant numbers related to the Manila Galleons. So first, more than 140 galleons vessels traveled the Manila-Acapulco route from 1565 to 1815, which is a 250-year sort of operating maritime network. Of this, 108 galleons were owned by the Spanish colonial government. Next, from 1565 to approximately 1600, as many as 4 galleons traveled in tandem from Manila to Acapulco. This ended when new regulations were established by the Spanish government in 1593, restricting the trade to 2 vessels per year, one from Acapulco and the other from Manila. Remarkably, there were also years that no galleon crossed the Manila-Acapulco route. So 26 vessels were lost. Manila galleons were lost either due to severe storms, fires on the ships, pilot error, or the vessel's lack of seaworthiness as a result of poor construction. 4 of the galleons were captured by the British pirates or privateers and includes Santa Ana in 1587, Encarnacion in 1709, Nuestra Señora de Covadonga in 1743, and Nuestra Señora de la Santísima Trinidad in 1762. So this is the usual route of the Manila Galleon from Manila and Cavite here, goes towards Batangas, goes south, and traverses the Verde Passage and passes Marinduque until here in Ticao, and goes south again and go to the San Bernardino Straits or Embocadero. And what you see here are the shipwrecks that are that was investigated by the National Museum, which I will discuss later. Interestingly, there were some questions why this route was used and not further north, like traversing the eastern side of Luzon, at the western side of Luzon. There was a theory that there are a lot of private trading that's being done here. So the cargo that's being loaded in Cavite may not be the same cargo that goes out to Acapulco, because there are some private trading that's happening in here. And I think early in the 18th century, there was 1 or 2 attempts to traverse the western side of Luzon, but it was not successful. So this is a list of lost Manila galleons that are not investigated at this time. So this includes 2 unidentified ships in Cavite Port. The year it was lost was 1589. And then the Santa Maria de Magdalena, also lost in Cavite Port in 1589. The San Luis location in Cagayan Valley was northern Cagayan, and it was lost in 1646. There was actually an attempt to survey to locate San Luis, but this was not successful. The Buen Jesus was lost also in Binangonan de Lampon, which is in present-day Infanta, Quezon, and it was lost in 1648. And the Nuestra Señora de la Encarnacion was lost in Bulan, Sorsogon, also in 1648. And then here, the Nuestra Señora del Pilar, which was lost near Manila in 1750. And then the San Fernando was lost somewhere in Sorsogon in 1799. And then the San Francisco Javier, unknown location, but it was lost in 1653. And there's a current investigation of the San Andres Galleon. The location is in Bocadero, San Bernardino Straits, which was lost in 1798. There are some encouraging signs that maybe it has been found, but it's in very deep waters, and the current is very strong. So not much investigations have been done at this time. So the office that's in charge of the Manila Galleon research and basically the whole underwater and maritime archaeology research here in the Philippines is the present Maritime and Underwater Cultural Heritage Division. But it has very deep roots, and it was created first as an underwater archaeology unit in 1979 under the then Anthropology Division. And then in 1988, the UAU was renamed the Underwater Section as part of the Archaeology Division. So in 2016, another reorganization by the National Museum resulted in the creation of a new division, which is the Maritime and Underwater Cultural Heritage Division, which is operational from 2016 until now. So the photos on the right side of your screen are some of our major projects over the years. So this is a map of the major archaeological projects by the combined UAU, UAS, and MUCHD. So as you can see, we have sites like the Marigondon Cave, which I mentioned earlier, that's dated to the prehistoric period. We have shipwrecks mostly on the eastern side, which is dated to the 13th century. And there are sites dated to the 15th century, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, as well as World War II shipwrecks, which we are currently doing just recording, but not excavations. So now let us go to the Manila Galleon. First, we go to Espiritu Santo in 1576, San Jeronimo in 1600, Santo Tomas in 1601. And these shipwrecks have been historically reported as lost in the island of Catanduanes. So Espiritu Santo and San Jeronimo were allegedly wrecked at the south and southeast coast of Catanduanes Island, so southeast in here, on their way to the east of Japan to mount the Kuroshio Current. Galleons going on by north and northeast direction from the Embocadero in here are very vulnerable to storms coming from the Pacific, as Catanduanes lies directly along the path of these storms, normally in here, especially during the northeast monsoon or the Amihan. The southern part of the island reefs are as shallow as 3 to 4 meters, so it's very dangerous. So Espiritu Santo was an outbound Manila Galleon that sank in the vicinity of Catanduanes Island. So there's a historical document made by Pastel in 1925 who provided relevant passages related to the Espiritu Santo. So he said, the vessel's untimely demise was caused by an unforgettable strong and merciless typhoon, and the galleon was suddenly thrown into the reefs near a place and uncharted coast on the shore of Catanduanes. Another part mentioned, a Spanish ship had run across the reefs along the coast, and all the Spaniards died either by drowning or from being smashed onto the reefs or thrown into sharp stones. Further, the natives of Sion, which I assume were living here in the south or southeast of Catanduanes, found the location of 2 anchors, some pieces of cargo, and arquebuses. And finally, one passage states that the group who came, led by Don Juan de Sardonil, to attempt a rescue on the site to the north side of the Sion River, never succeeded in recovering any cargo or survivors of the Espiritu Santo. So another textual source, San Agustin Maria de Castro's Osorio Venerable Misioneros Agustinos en el Extremo Oriente in 1565 to 1780, but was published in 1954, provide the following relevant clause. On the way, approximately 100 leagues from Manila and along a channel of the island province of Catanduanes, the Espiritu Santo was wrecked due to the carelessness of the pilot. Furthermore, the friars tried to swim toward the south of Catanduanes. So one of the most notable passengers of the Espiritu Santo is Father Diego de Herrera, a famous Augustinian priest. One of the myths is that the cross of Batalay Church in Bato Municipality, in here, came from Espiritu Santo. So the barbarous islanders, they said, attacked and killed them with their spears and cutlasses. They watered the earth with the blood of the religious, recording on the sands the cruelty of the tyrants and the constancy by which the religious tolerated such a cruel death at their hands. So the interrupted voyage of the San Jeronimo was mentioned in only one historical document. This is Colin and Murillo's Labor Evangelica, published in 1749. In chapter 17, it says that San Jeronimo was lost in the way to New Spain and that it perished just outside the Embocadero in Catanduanes Island near Verac Point. So a lot of surveys were done that started in 1992 and was conducted periodically until 2008. So some of the surveys that I was involved with used a bigger boat and a smaller boat and used survey equipment such as this, that you can find on the lower left side of your screen, which is multi-beam sonar, and on the lower right side, which is a magnetometer. This detects magnetic properties under the seabed, and this creates very detailed maps of the seabed. So what you can see here is a map containing the results of the survey, mostly concentrated on the eastern side and also some in the northern side. So unfortunately, this is the only one that's been found, which can be related to the San Jeronimo, which I found when I was walking in a beach here in Barangay Bagamanok, in here, and I just found this group of Chinese blue and white wares, which is contemporary to the late 16th century. But besides that, no further evidences were found, despite our best efforts to locate something within the area. Somewhere down south, we found an anchor, but it's relatively modern anchor and not related to the Manila Galleon. So next, we go to the Nuestra Señora de la Vida, which was sunk in 1620. So Nuestra Señora de la Vida was an outbound Manila Galleon that reported sank in 1620. The pilot reportedly failed to properly navigate the ship and hit one of the reefs of Verde Island. This is here, location of Verde Island, and this is location of the shipwreck site in the Verde Island. The ship reportedly ran aground onto the shore, after which the ship's structure broke and its contents recovered more than a year later, following the date of the shipwreck. The furious passengers reportedly hanged the erring pilot. Sorry state for him. So excavated in the 1985, the Nuestra Señora de la Vida is considered significant, as this is the first time that a keel and some fixtures belonging to a Manila Galleon have been found during that time. So the timber measured 21 meters and is located between 4 and 6 meters deep. The keel here, on the upper left side of your screen, is placed in position by two huge blocks above it. So here, the larger block is composed mainly of ballast stones together with coral concretions, and the smaller block consists of several cannonballs, which you can find here. These are cannonballs, surrounded by a coating of iron and limestone aggregate and joined together with ballast stones. On the east side of the keel, Parts of the floor timber have survived, so it's in here. The keelson and two counter keels have left traces under two blocks composed of ballast stones and cannonballs. So, on the left side of your screen, a drawing of the keel and some ship parts, which is basically overlaid by ballast stones. And on the right side are the recoveries of Chinese blue and white fragments. They were analyzed and compared with similar items from the site Cour Napoleon, which is stored at the Musée du Louvre in France. Based on the comparative results, the trade wares from the Nuestra Señora del Vida seem to be of inferior quality and may be destined for a less selective clientele, quite possibly for the general population. The trade wares may well be produced during the second decade of the 17th century. So next we go to the San Diego, which is the most complete Manila Galleon ever excavated. So the San Diego was built in the shipyards of Cebu. So this was built in Cebu and initially named the San Antonio. She was docked in Cavite for reconditioning and repairs when a couple of Dutch ships, led by Olivier van Noort, aboard his flagship Mauritius and a smaller ship Concord, entered the Philippines to carry out private trade in the country. Dutch and Spain during the time were just traditional bitter enemies. So when the Spaniards learned of the incursion, the government hastily assembled a small fleet of ships, including San Diego as the flagship, and to engage the Dutch. So at that time, Don Antonio de Morga, the Vice Governor General of the Philippines and head of the Inquisition and a judge of the Royal Audiencia, was tasked to lead the expedition. Don Antonio de Morga is an inexperienced sailor. He's a very good administrator, but he knows nothing about sailing. So, as a result, Morga overloaded the San Diego with weaponries, including land cannons, which are very, very heavy, and other unnecessary cargo. So this made San Diego very heavy and not really fit for maneuver, which is very critical when you engage in sea battles. So after a brief skirmish in Friar Point, which is south of Manila, Mauritius and San Diego had a running battle that finally culminated in a fierce, close encounter near Fortune Island, Batangas, in here. So this is in Batangas province in Nasugbu. De Morga's bad tactical decisions and the unsuitability of San Diego's escort vessel, unsuitability of San Diego for sea battle, caused it to sink when hit by cannonballs. The San Bartolome, San Diego's escort vessel, was able to capture the Concord, the smaller Dutch vessel, in Lubang Island near Mindoro, while Mauritius escaped to Ignitia before returning to Rotterdam. So archival research on the possible location of the site was conducted in the libraries and archives of Spain, Holland, Italy, and France. The primary materials here used include Don Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, or Historical Events of Philippine Islands, published in Mexico in 1609, and Olivier van Noot's My Arduous Journey Around the World, among other sources that detailed the battle between San Diego and Mauritius. So these are the tale of these two men, and also an illustration of the Battle of the San Diego. So due to the inaccurate historical accounts of Don Antonio de Morga, the exact sinking location was not easily discovered, and it was only through after a month of really rigorous survey using magnetometers that detects iron contents under the seabed that they were able to see it. So they used the catamaran that is towing magnetometers. And during the excavations, they used a bigger vessel as well as a submersible. So these are just some of the photos of the excavation of the San Diego. It's found in very deep waters, more than 50 meters. So only technical divers are allowed to dive in the site. At that time, the National Museum personnel in 1992 was not trained to be deep divers. So they supervised the excavation using submersibles here, which can fit 2 persons. and just hover over the site and talk to the divers. So these are photos of the recording of the San Diego vessel. And this is the layout after recording of the site. So as you can see, there's a lot of scattering and also the presence of a lot of materials, including cannons and anchors. So the San Diego is about 35 to 40 meters long and 11 to 12 meters wide with a 700 to 800 ton capacity and with a displacement of almost 1,000 tons, making it an ocean-going vessel. So on your left side is the reconstruction of the Spanish galleon, the illustration based on the recording. And in the middle is a digital reconstruction of San Diego by naval architect Philippe Tomei. And on your right side is a model of a galleon by San Diego being exhibited here in Manila at the National Museum of Anthropology building. Again, snapshots of the excavations and of the site. So you can see on the upper left side is the anchor. And on the upper right side are stoneware jars from China and Thailand. And the discovery of the cannons. Some of them are land cannons. And its recovery. So most of the recoveries include crackwares produced during the reign of the Chinese Emperor Wanli period, which is dated to 1573 to 1620 CE. And you can see they're of really high quality. These are purposely made for the European market and may have been on board because there were more than 100 Spanish nobilities that were on board the San Diego, and they thought this was a picnic, but it's not, and a lot of nobility died when the San Diego sunk. So these are crackwares, except for the one in the middle, in the upper part, which is a Jiangzhou ware. It's produced in Fujian province, while the crackwares are produced in Jingdezhen, Jiangxi province in China. These are also typical examples of the crack plates, which is characterized by paneled decorations and a lot of floral decorations and deer and landscape decorations and flower bouquets and landscape also. There's a lot of types of stoneware jars that were found in San Diego. On the upper left side of your screen are what they term as dragon jars that's being produced in Fujian province in China. And on the lower left are sturdy, large, and very durable stoneware jars that are being manufactured by the Mainam Noi Kilns in Singburi province in Thailand, in here. And on the center are termed as Spanish olive jars, which is mostly made in Mexico. And on the upper right side of your screen are examples of Chinese storage jars, including looted jars, and also some jars have either marks of the potters themselves or the merchandisers, the owner of such jars. And on the lower right side of your screen are the huge and very sturdy jars from Martaban in Myanmar. Again, other examples of ceramics. This also includes earthenware stove and a variety of materials used for pharmacy, for medicines, for medicine mixing. And these are very remarkable earthenware cups and vases which have porcelain inlays. As you can see, there's the inclusions, white inclusions here are actually fragments of porcelain. And also some ceramics and metals. The metalwares include, these are for medicine and also I think for personal use. And you have a lot of silver pieces of 8, which are the currency, and rosary beads, and also book clasps, and glasswares, and very importantly, the astrolabe, which is a navigational instrument and which is very rare, and there's only a few of them left now. And also this astronomical ring, which is also very rare, and again, a navigational instrument. Next, we go to the San Jose. San Jose is one of the largest galleons built in Cavite. So it departed Manila for Acapulco on July 3, 1694. Unfortunately, the galleon struck a reef in the southwestern part of Lubang Island in here. So this is Lubang, small one here. During a storm, all of the 400 individuals on the ship died, and 12,000 pieces of cargo she carried was lost. So this is on the lower right side of your screen, is the area where the San Jose sunk. So in 1985 or 1987, I think excavations of the San Jose was carried out by the National Museum and Frank Godio. So they were able to find the structure of the wreck, the hull remains, as well as a lot of Chinese blue and white teacups. And besides that, there are other porcelain, stoneware, earthenware, as well as crumpled lead sheets, glass bottles, copper rings, bronze and other metal implements, iron slugs, and bits of implements. In 2019, the National Museum and Frank Godio's team went back to the site to do further surveys and do test excavations using this catamaran here. And they tested a new sonar equipment which has done the mapping in here, as you can see on the lower side of your screen. And this is what you see in 2019. There are still remains of the anchor, and we tried to do excavations, and we found not so many archaeological materials. And this is the team that excavated and surveyed San Jose in 2019. So these are just some of the materials that were recovered in 2019, which includes snuff bottles. These are very small snuff bottles, and lots of blue and white shirts, as well as monochrome teacups. So next, we go to Santo Cristo de Burgos in 1726. That was wrecked in 1726. It was an outbound Manila Galleon under the command of Captain General of the Sea San Francisco Sanchez de Tagle. She sailed from Cavite in July 8, 1726. She moored on the southeast coast of Ticao Island, here, this is Ticao, here, between Sorsogon and Masbate while waiting for favorable winds when a sudden storm pushed the ship into the shallow reefs that caused its destruction on July 23, 1726. The ship reportedly sunk with its stern on the shallow area and its bow facing the Ticao Pass. The vessel was one of the biggest during its time, weighing approximately 4,000 tons and carried 52 bronze and iron cannons. At the time of the sinking, she was fully laden with cargoes destined for Acapulco that may include spices, marine and forest products, silk, and porcelain, among others. So the National Museum worked with a worldwide first headed by Frank Godio and carried out bathymetric and magnetometer survey in April to May 2004, somewhere here. So these are photos of the survey team installing the then DGPS, or Differential Global Positioning Systems, and then putting the magnetometers in here. And if they detect an anomaly based on the monitors, the readings of the magnetometers, it's visually inspected using metal detectors, which you can see on the lower right side of the screen. So this is a map of Ticao, and this is where the survey was conducted, in here, in this area here. And you see the result of the surveys, and this is the photo of the site. So despite the very thorough investigation, the ship itself or the main cargo has not been found. Maybe it has already been recovered or looted over the years. It is possible that the ships, it has salvaged because it's in very shallow waters. But this is the only thing that remains during the survey. So to summarize, the arrival of the European naval expeditions in Southeast Asia during the early 16th century CE created profound transformations in patterns of Southeast Asian maritime trade as European markets became available to Chinese and Southeast Asian products and vice versa. Manila became the commercial center of the world in the 16th and 17th centuries, due primarily to the galleon trade that linked the trading commodities of the East and West. So the National Museum has been involved with the search of the Manila Galleon since 1985 and has fully investigated 6 shipwrecks at this time. Although there have been several surveys and excavations, only San Diego yielded a complete archaeological assemblage. So the Manila Galleons were the primary material evidence of the first instance of globalization using the maritime highways and of Manila and, in a way, Cebu playing a crucial role in world economic affairs. Daghang salamat.
Thank you so much, Sir Bobby, for that very informative discussion, sir. No? Now, at this point, I'd like to ask our audience pod if they have questions for Sir Bobby that they'd like to ask. You can just write them in the comment section, and then we'll discuss them. So, yeah, while waiting for if our audience now has questions, actually, ako nasa ko yung questions of my own, Sir Bobby. I'm very curious about the Marigondon cave that you mentioned earlier, no? Actually, I had a friend sa Facebook nga ni personal siya og message nako kay taga Marigondon siya. And then he was asking what were the specific nga artifacts that were found in that kanang dig.
Unfortunately, there were no archaeological artifacts that were recovered, only marine sediments and shells. So basically, ecofacts, but not artifacts. It's probably because it has been severely disturbed. But John Peterson, the team leader, has identified a lot of similar caves around Cebu and Bohol that may hold evidence to early peopling of Cebu and basically of Bohol. But for the Marigondon cave, no archaeological artifacts at this time.
Okay. Then, aside from that, for the other wreckage no that were said to be, for example, in Catanduanes, like you mentioned, are there possibilities, sir, that really naanay nakauna there were people who were already doing looting back then, maunang gamay na lang taog nakit-an nga artifacts when you did the survey and the scanning?
I think it's possible, but based on historical documents, wa pa gyud nakakuha na niya. And if you see the location of Catanduanes, which is facing the Philippine Sea and the Pacific Ocean, it has very dynamic water environment. So kung naamang gani siya, it's either nalubong na gid siya kaayo nga dili na makita during surveys, or it wrecked somewhere nga wala ma-appeal sa mong survey. But the possibility is still there, and there are also like historical documents says that they attempted to salvage it, but they haven't found anything. And since 1980s, we have not received any reports of any recoveries. But of course, we should not discount because like numbers, hundreds of years nga ang nilabay after the sinking and during this time.
I see. And speaking of possibilities there, Sir Bobby, the National Museum here in Cebu will soon be opening. Now, I'd like to ask if there are already like plans to do more like excavations or more projects, since we already have a National Museum here in Cebu, because it would be very interesting and exciting to us, especially kaning naa sa waterfront no nga area, if we can find more artifacts that would uncover like answer some of our questions regarding early settlements dinhi.
So Actually, there's a lot of plans. Cebu City as a whole is sort of a very archaeologically rich. There are a lot of sites all over Cebu from the north to the south, but these are mostly terrestrial sites. So the National Museum has done a lot of surveys, and recently, Dr. John Peterson and Jose Eliazar Bersales of Jobers has done a lot of surveys and investigations of archaeological sites all over Cebu. So daghan na silang na-identify na site and daghan na silang na-investigate. But in terms of maritime archaeology, unfortunately, there's not a lot of evidence at this point, although there were early Cebu-based galleons pero wala silang shipwreck. What we're doing now, and I think maybe you can help us, is we want our division, in conjunction with the ethnology division, wants to exhibit the unique boat building tradition of Cebu. So we plan to go there and document. So if you have any suggestions, we have received reports na nasa Bantayan, nasa Malapascua, nasa Olango, and we will try to survey all of this. But if the audience can also give additional examples kung asa to'y medyo unique boat building tradition nga mas lalo na kung medyo disappearing na siya. So para among display sa Maritime Gallery sa National Museum Cebu.
Yeah, that would be great, bitaw sir, no? Kay really, since Cebu jud is surrounded by is an island, no, nga kanang seafaring sa jud ta dinhi. Most probably daghan jud ta og kana techniques in boat building nga nagkanam-anam na pud og kawa. So it's good that we have these projects to document them. And as of now, we have a question here. Let me just post it from Achi. Sir, good afternoon. I've read also the brief recount of the Manila Galleon, the archaeology of Manila Galleon by Roberto Junco.
He's a good friend, si Roberto Junco.
May I have a thought on the statement about treasure hunters have been salvaged which also cost limited access of information by our researchers?
Over the years, since even 1960s and 1970s, daghan yung treasure hunters, they wanted to, the Manila Galleon is the holy grail, so to speak. Pero as of now, wala pa mi nakadungog og reports nga naay nakitaan sa mga treasure hunters in terms of Manila Galleon. But there are other shipwrecks which are equally important nga we think nahilabtan na sa mga treasure hunters. And even now, we still receive reports of shipwrecks being discovered, and especially the ceramics being peddled sa mga antique shops. But recently, wala na kaayo. So I guess either naa na siya sa lawom, nahurot na siya ang mga mabaw nga shipwrecks na katong kayang abton sa mga treasure hunters. So naa siguro iba nga naa sa mas lawom na siya.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, no, Achi? And then we have another one from Tyler Berame. Is San Nicolas in Cebu City an old trading port daw?
As of this time, murag wala pa kaayo ko kakuha ng historical documents sa San Nicolas sa Cebu. But it could be. Mas maayo siguro ang mga Cebu historians ang mo tukila na niya. Kaya nga mo ang material evidence. So if there is enough historical documents, then maybe we can initiate an investigation in San Nicolas.
Bitaw sad. So yeah, I think that would be all for our question and answer portion for this afternoon. Again, thank you so much, Sir Bobby, no, for
salamat sa mga namati.
Lagi for accepting our invitation for this talk. Kanina lang, last question. Do you have like a message for our listeners and for our our viewers and for our future viewers, no, mga mananaw pa later on, because this video will stay in our Facebook page. For those nga interested kaayo about maritime archaeology and kana, I'll give you the floor.
Daghang salamat sa mga interesado sa archaeology. Importante kaayong ma-preserve atong culture, especially shipwreck remains, other objects that is related to our past. So please, if you find anything, i-report sa National Museum and you preserve and protect it. Kay importante kay na para ma-articulate ang atong maritime history or atong history. Kay without that, without the material evidence, we cannot do anything. Wala tayo basis for interpreting our past. So, ang ako lang emphasis, especially for us archaeologists and also the historians, is that we have to preserve our past, and especially now in the age of fake news and trolls. Importante kaayo nga science-based we have to dig deeper to identify ourselves in terms of culture para mas nindot ang atong cultural identity and we can sort of be proud of our heritage.
Yes, definitely. Again, thank you kaayo, Sir Bobby, and we hope we can collaborate again for future activities and future programs sa din sa Casa Gorordo Museum.
Anytime, Rick, anytime. Salamat kaayo.
Sige, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And again, I'd like to thank our viewers in Facebook and in YouTube that joined us today. We hope that we have imparted valuable and interesting information to you guys. And at this point, I'd like to announce that Casa Gorordo Museum will be reopening our doors on October 15, 2022. And yeah, we miss you guys. We can't wait to welcome you back din sa Casa Gorordo Museum. We will be featuring our new and improved tour. Just watch out for the announcements no sa amo ang diri sa ato ang Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Casa Gorordo Museum. And aside from that, we will be joining the Gabi sa Kabilin 2022 this coming October 21st. Friday na siya from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. Regular rate is at 200 pesos and students and senior citizens has a discounted price of 180. Very exciting na nga nakabalik ta right after sa pandemic. We have I think 20 participating sites and napapud tay mga featured sites pod dinhi sa Cebu City, Talisay and Mandaue City. The 200 peso ticket includes transportation na ana ni siya buses that would go around the sites, dili na mo mahasol. Then naapod tay chance nga makatisting og sakay sa ato ang Tartanilla, the traditional horse carriages here in Cebu. Ang ruta will be from the Cebu Chinese Heritage Museum and I think going mi siya sa Fort San Pedro, if I'm not mistaken, no? Ato lang i-double check. Please follow the Casa Gorordo Museum Facebook page for updates. Gabi sa Kabilin Facebook page and the newest participant of the Gabi sa Kabilin ang kaning the Kabilin Center Facebook pages. We are also doing radio tours and we will be doing kanang tarps and posters around the city for you guys to know what we have in store for you. So thank you again. That's all for our talk this afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. Stay safe and we hope to see you again at Casa Gorordo Museum.
Yeah.
Cacao in the 21st century. Before, in Lantoy Cave, on the highest mountain in Argao, lived Maria Cacao.
Casa Gorordo Museum is a centerpiece project of the Culture and Heritage Focus Area of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated. The museum's mission is to promote awareness and appreciation of local culture and enable the Cebuano to tell his story. It is in line with Rafi's vision of touching people, shaping the future.